Woohoo! This hangout on air is now live.
Yay!
Abiola Abrams here. Woohoo! And that other beautiful brown woman that you see is Sheena LaShay. Now that is a name for you, isn't it? Welcome to Sacred Bombshell Academy launch week. We are celebrating you, and we are celebrating the launch of my new book, The Sacred Bombshell Handbook of Self-Love, with 11 incredible speakers to represent the 11 chapters in the book. And Sheena LaShay happens not only to be a part of Sacred Bombshell Academy, but she is in the book. So welcome, Sheena.
Hi, I'm so geeked out to be in the book. I'm just like, oh my God, I'm in the book as seen in.
Yes.
Well, thank you.
No, thank
so
you.
much. Thank you so much for that.
Thank you. Thank you. And just so that you know, there's a bit of a delay, so sorry I stepped on your words there. Feel free if I do step on your words, like if I stepped on, the coattail of your lovely garments, it's okay to toss me off and be like, wait, I want to finish that, because there's a delay thing happening. So let me tell you a little bit about Sheena and then get into our conversation. And tonight, actually, we're discussing, there's a chapter in the book named Nishani, Beauty as a Spiritual Practice. And so Sheena's going to be talking about beauty as a spiritual practice, pleasure as a spiritual practice, and all things yummy. So, known as an intellectual, sensual, shaman, and wild, magical woman, Sheena LaShay is a writer, speaker, and producer in New York City. Having spent the formative years of her life in a repressive cult and surviving 7 years of repeated childhood sexual abuse, Sheena decided to thrive past her victimization and live in abundance, freedom, and joy. Now she has one mission, drink this in, people, to inspire authentic and powerful living. Sheena is a motivational speaker, lifestyle vlogger, boudoir photographer, and sensual pole activist. Understanding the transformative healing power of art and creativity, Sheila hosts a number of retreats, workshops, and events geared toward encouraging mindfulness and presence. She also writes for several websites on empowerment, culture, and love. Recently, she was interviewed by Dr. Richard Besser of ABC News for This Week with George Stephanopoulos regarding sexual abuse, politics, and culture. Sheena's personal adventures, healing journey, and creative art can be found at SheenaLaShay.com. And so, Miss Sheena, that is the formal bio resume. Tell me, as I ask you here face-to-face, sacred bombshell to bombshell, who are you, Sheena LaShay?
I love to say that I'm a wild, magical woman, really. Like, that just, for me, it's about being energy in motion, this like raw, spiritual, just unrelenting power force that exists. Like, that's who I am, and I express it in so many different ways.
Beautiful, beautiful. You absolutely are. I have to say this about you and, really all of the women who are in the book and a part of Sacred Bombshell Academy, just forces of nature that I am just so hopeful and jazzed up and geeked up just about the world. Like, people feel, pessimistic about the state of the world, but I actually feel very optimistic and very excited about that. Sheena, I talked about when I introduced you some of the painful things that happened in your past. Can you tell us a little bit about your personal journey in your own words?
As the bio mentioned, I was sexually abused as a child, and eventually my family, members of my family, were able to move out of that environment. During that time, I lived a very I had two sides to my life. You know, on the surface, I was this A student and I had great friends, and, you know, I was an outstanding member of the church we attended. But on the inside, I was just shrouded in darkness and sort of like what felt like the opposite of beauty. And it wasn't until years later, after I graduated college, had gone through depression and suicidal tendencies, when I realized I had reached rock bottom and I was either going to die by my own doing through self-destruction, or I had to do something differently. And I thought, oh, what if I actually loved myself? What if I tried that for a day?
Mm.
Because I had, during the time of being abused and after that happened, I had internalized everything. You know, I'd been a victim and that was against my will, but then I took that on like as my label of self. Instead of being a wild magical woman or, you know, amazing adventurous child, I felt broken and dirty and poisoned. And I had to change that for myself because I wasn't working.
Mm. Well, you know, first of all, thank you so much for sharing your story. That is extremely courageous for you to give a voice to so many different things. And so then my next question to you would be really, how did you step out of that darkness? Because I work with a lot of women, as do you, who maybe have an experience that they then feel fundamentally broken because of. You know what I mean? And one of the things that it really strikes me about your story and why it was important for me to have you in the book is that you really see your life as, you know, that we can't control everything that happens to you, but the suffering part of it is inevitable. How did you find that?
um, I realized that the two things keeping me down,
And I'm not sure if I said it, I'm trying to remember. The suffering part is optional. If I didn't
yeah,
say that, that's what I
suffering
meant.
is optional. I know what you mean. Yeah. You mean like it's in the sense of, you know, the first time I was victimized, that was not my choice, but choosing to remain a victim. You know, how did I get out of that? Because
Right.
I often give the example of how if you're in a car crash and your body is broken and these things happen, like you don't have you didn't have control over that crash, and so then the doctors do surgery and your body also don't have an interest in healing. Like you'll start ripping out the stitches and you won't do your physical therapy. Like you're choosing to stay the victim. And how did that change for me? I mean, there really were numerous things. One was my own pride. You know, I think ego sometimes gets a bad rap as this dirty, horrible thing too, and I think it's whatever you make it to be. My own ego did not like the fact that my abuser was living what seemed to be a life of abundance. I mean, he was going on vacations and, you know, buying a home and just having this amazing life. And I was in a bar drinking Jack Daniels and just feeling miserable. And I did not like that picture. I could see that I was giving him my power. And my ego was just like, no, no, I'm tired of doing that. The other thing was just realizing that a lot of what was keeping me as a victim were my own thought process. So it was the things going on in my head, the things I was taught to believe. And when I was able to pinpoint that, to realize it was the things I kept repeating to myself or these belief systems I was raised in, I was like, you know what, I'm just going to let those things go and see what happens, which freaks a lot of people out.
It does freak a lot of people out. So I'll ask you to speak more about that because, you know, that some people may have a complete disconnect from that and be like, what? How are you saying that? What are you talking about? Tell us more.
I know. Okay, so for instance, I would literally be at home, you know, I'm brushing my teeth, and in my head I'm thinking, you're so stupid. You're so broken. No one will love you. You'll never be in a proper relationship. You'll never learn to trust. And I would just keep repeating those things in my head. And then I was like, what if I change my thoughts? What if I just stop saying that? What if, even if I can't say I love myself, what if I just focus on something else? What if I just notice a pretty flower instead of thinking horrible things? And maybe on a good day, or maybe for a good 5 minutes, I can even say something different. I can just say, I'm a human. And then I can change that to, I'm sacred, I'm holy, instead of I'm broken. And then the other part of that, this goes back to, why do I keep saying this to myself? Why do I think I won't be able to love properly, or I'm poison? Oh, because someone told me that. You know, I saw that on TV. I heard that from a sermon. An aunt told me that, or a friend made fun of my skirt and said that my thighs were too big. And these are the reasons why I keep saying these things over and over in my head, because someone else told me this was my own truth. And I was like, what if I just stopped listening to everyone else? What if, like, it could be their own truth. They can feel that they're broken and all the women in the world are broken. That's theirs to hold on to. But what if I made up my own rules? And that seems scary because that's kind of antithetical to what we're taught. So I was like, I'll just do it for 5 minutes. I won't even change my whole life. Just for 5 minutes, like while I take a shower, I'm just going to enjoy the way this water feels on me and the way the shower gel smells. And it's just going to feel real good to me, and nothing else matters. And once I did those 5 minutes of just doing whatever I wanted, I realized I felt so alive and so good, and I felt like I was doing what I was supposed to do. So I was like, okay, I'll do it for a whole day, and I'll do it for a whole week. I'll do it for a whole year. You know what? I'm going to make my life about whatever pleases me. And it kept working.
Miracle of miracles. I think that that is just so beautiful and just such an important lesson, you know, for everyone who's listening. The reason why, you know, Sheena is sharing her story with us is not for people to gawk and be like, oh, look at what she went through, but to say, wow, okay, look at these steps and things that she was able to surmount in her life, and how can I then put these tools into practice in my life? And so a few of the tools that I want us to look at that she pointed out, you know, first of all, baby steps, you know, is saying, okay, I'm not going to suddenly leap to a place where I love myself more than I ever have, you know, and now I'm hallelujah healed. But she said, okay, for 5 minutes, you know, I'm going to just love myself a little bit more than I did 5 minutes ago. And just, you know, to be able to then build and expand on that practice, or being able to change, you know, the ongoing voice, you know, that we all have going in our head. And so, Sheena,
Yes.
my next question to you then would be, a big part of, you know, the abuse that you suffered was also, I would think, you know, at the rejection of, you know, you were in a religious community, and so the religious community took the side of your abuser over
Yes.
your side. And, you know, thankfully that you have an amazing mother who believed you immediately and was able to get you and your siblings to a place of safety. But your work is also like incredibly spiritual. And so some people would throw the baby out with the bathwater and say, my God, you know, spirituality, look what I experienced, so spirituality must somehow be bad or evil or scary, or, you know what I mean? Like I've worked with, you know, a lot of people who have experienced negative things that maybe took place in a church and then are unable to connect with their own spirituality because of that. Can you speak to that a bit?
I realized that the only person telling me these horrible things were people. You know, whether you believe in God or Buddha or any kind of higher being, whatever that is for you. For this, I will say God, right? So it was the leader of our religious organization who sat and told me those hurtful things. God did not come down on some chariot waving a banner of "you must suffer, Sheena." And that's how I was able to make the distinction. When I see God come down from heaven or the clouds and tell me the same things as the pastor, maybe then I might be like, oh, I don't know about spirit. But that has never happened. It was only people. And so I was able to keep that separate. And this also goes back to, for some of us, we're told how to experience spirituality, or how to experience our higher power, or your soulful living, or God. And I realized, again, I could agree with everything I've been told, or I can make my own rules and find my own spiritual practice. And so I never connected the two. It's also very similar to how, someone may be abused and then they don't trust men in general anymore, or women in general anymore. And for me, it was just like, no, that one person abused me. Like the 3 billion plus however men in the world, they were not involved. The leader of the religious organization said the bad thing. I did not hear the voice of God come to Sheena and say it.
Yes, beautiful and well said. So tonight's lesson and tonight's topic and the chapter in the Sacred Bombshell Handbook of Self-Love that we are speaking about, and the chapter that your interview appears in, is beauty as a spiritual practice. What does that mean to you?
Yeah, so I'm a bit of a nerd, and I always want to make sure, everyone's on the same page, right? So I love the definition of beauty. So I'm going to read that to you all.
Yay.
Beauty, it's the quality present in a thing or person that gives intense pleasure or deep satisfaction to the mind, whether arising from sensory, a meaningful design or pattern, or something else. So when I read that, we're told many things about beauty, whatever. This definition says that beauty is your experience of intense pleasure. And then again, when I think about spirit or spirituality, for me, it's about your sacred life force. So when we say beauty as a spiritual practice, it is the experience of pleasure as a way that you enhance your sacred life force. That's like, oh, okay, where do I sign up? Like, experiencing pleasure is going to help me live to my highest? Yes, please.
Yes,
that's what beauty as a spiritual practice means to me. Pleasure.
I love it. Yes, 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 yes. Pleasure. And so let's take it deeper, because your work, as we said way back, if you're just tuning in, when we read her bio, that she is a pole activist, a boudoir photographer, a writer, that so much of your work is, all about pleasure. And I know that in our last conversation that we talked about the trouble, or the how the discomfort that you used to feel about the word beauty.
Yes.
What role, let's talk about pleasure. What role does pleasure play in your life, personally and professionally? And how did you, as a survivor of horrific things, become comfortable as a woman owning her pleasure, owning her beauty, sitting in that space and holding a space for that for other women?
Right? Well, again, this goes back to when we think about my childhood, early adulthood. Most of why I felt so crappy was because of what I was thinking and what I was taught to believe. So I decided I'm going to let that stuff go and try some different things on. And I didn't know what I liked. I didn't know my own beauty. I didn't value myself. I couldn't tell you when I was 20 years old what pleased me. So I just decided to experiment. It was all, whether it was for 5 minutes or a day, whatever. I was like, I'm just going to try stuff. And whatever feels good or feels right to me, I'm going to move closer to it, even if other people disagree. because people have told me the way to live all my life, and it kind of didn't turn out right. So I'm going to try my own rules right now. And so one of the first things that I thought to do, and this just goes back to the basics for me, and this is exploring sensuality, right? And when I talk about sensuality, I mean the experience of our five senses. Mm-hmm. So that means sight, for instance. What do I see that pleases me, and how can I see that more often? I like seeing beautiful men. So I'm gonna like walk down the street and be present and engaged and like really see the beautiful men, because when I see one, I just feel good, and that's great.
Yes.
Or I like to see just beautiful things, whether it's artwork or dance or theater. So I'm going to keep going out of my way to see those things. And you go through each of your senses, like your sense of smell. What smells please you? And if you don't know, try them all. Try smelling lavender versus tangerine versus a rose essential oil. And when you find one that really resonates with you, keep it. And I just went through each thing: touch and taste. To get me started on taste, like mangoes, strawberries, gelato, red velvet, kale. It's like I'm just going to keep tasting what feels good on my tongue. And that's pleasure.
Yes. Yes. And that's so important, because I think when we talk about, beauty, or we talk about pleasure even, or, some of these states, that people think that it's just something that you put on, right? Or something but we're talking about practices, meaning something that you do, that you actively get involved in. And I think that, as a matter of fact, I know that that's why it was transformative in your life and transformative for you, because things that we put into practice, we then are putting into our body, mind, body, and spirit, not just, intellectualizing or, pontificating on beauty, or thinking it's in makeup, or that self-love is in a jar. The practice of it.
Yes. So then one of the other things, because people talk about inner and outer beauty, and that can mean however you want to define it. Like, you get to make your own rules for your life. So for me, the inner beauty, that translated into meditation, because again, I was used to just thinking so many dark things or poisonous thoughts or destructive thoughts. So for me, the process of meditating helped me just be in a clear space. And that was pleasurable for me. And so I was like, you know what, I'm going to keep meditating, because that feels good. Because I don't hear the voices of destruction or the inner critic. I hear some waves, and I see white light, and that feels good. Or another version of, or example of inner beauty for me was a gratitude practice. Like, I would just write out these gratitude lists. And again, that forced me to be present in my life and like mindful of the things I was experiencing day to day, and to just write that list out. Like, what am I grateful for today? And that I found was beautiful. Like, those lists, whether it was a person, or I remember once I wrote that I was grateful for like bell peppers and carrots one day.
Yes.
And another day it was being grateful for things. You're like, oh wow, my life is beautiful. Like, it's not as bad as everyone's making it out to seem. Like, I heard birds today.
Beautiful, beautiful. So if someone is watching this and she's saying, okay, well, all of that sounds interesting, but where does pole fitness fit into that? Or where does, boudoir photography, you remember a few months ago that I had tweeted you my Essence column where this woman had written me a letter, and actually a few other women got in touch to say that they had the similar situation where their boyfriend or husband or whomever felt, I guess, an affront to their own sexuality, that their wife or woman was somehow involved in illicit pole fitness. Can you speak to that a bit, please?
Yes. So then this would be categorized as the outer beauty, right? So you could have, your basic, I don't even want to say basic, but one version of outer beauty is, how you adorn your body or your hair or your nails, like whatever makes you feel good, if it's pink lipstick or just, you know, plain lip gloss. But the other part of this outer beauty is your actual body, like how you live in your body. And so many women that I encounter are stuck in their bodies, and you can see it, like they're just tight and held, and there's this brick wall up. And our physical body is tied to how we experience our senses, how we practice presence and mindfulness in our lives, and our physical bodies are tied to how we experience sexuality or eroticism. And so often women are told, men too maybe, but in my experience, I was told, you know, sit still and cross your legs and
Be a
don't
lady.
be a lady, be pure, be a good girl, like, you know, don't take up too much space, and, you know, pull your shirt up and, you know, pull your dress down. And there's just something about how we try to control physical bodies. And that's because the physical bodies are very much connected to our spirituality, our sacred life force. When all that is united, like, you're just a power that can just, like, take over the world in a good and wholesome way. So because I knew that my body felt so scarred and so broken and so dominated by what everyone else was telling me, I wanted to experience my body in a different way. And one of those was through pole dancing or sensual movement. People have different ideas of what that means. For me, it was going into a studio that was lit like by candles, and for an hour we did this kind of combination of sensual yoga and Pilates. And the teachers would tell us during this time to just let our bodies take up space. They would tell us to close our eyes, because it's not about watching each other or performing. It was about us being in the room, in a community of others, but in a room with ourselves, and enjoying and being present with how our bodies felt. And if it felt good to run our hands in our hair or along our neck, or, you know, you just keep taking it down and in your thighs, you do it. And I realized, like, the more I did that, one, I found places where there was, like, energy that was stuck and where repressed emotions lived. And I had never touched them until I engaged my body. And as I moved through that stuck energy and repressed emotions, I started to feel free and liberated. And I felt like I was tapping into this, what I call spiritual eroticism. So I kept moving around the pole, on the floor, on the chairs, in hip circles, rolling my neck. And it felt good, and nobody could tell me anything.
Yes. Yes, that is so important that what you just said, you know, just even just taking that little piece of letting our bodies take up space. For us as women, that by itself is huge. That, as you said, we're used to trying to constrain ourselves. We bump into other people. We apologize. We apologize for our very beings. You know, we want to disappear, losing weight and disappearing. And, you know, so just letting your body, just taking up room in the world by itself is just so powerful. So
Yes.
powerful. Tell us more.
And, you know, sometimes it's a little thing. Like, I remember I went to this, you know, pole class, and a teacher of mine said that. So in the class, you know, we were dancing, my arms were spread out, and I was trying to be as big as I could. But even in practical ways, like, I remember I went home and I was on the train, and I was like, I'm going to take up this whole seat. Like, I'm not just going to, like, sit on the train like this.
Yeah, look at men. They're like taking up one dude, taking up the whole thing.
Exactly. And that, it was like such a little thing, but even that felt good, to just, like, you know what? I'm not going to apologize for wanting my thighs to have some room and my arms to have room. And I tried to find ways in my everyday life, even outside of dance class, where I was physically taking up space. You know, when I walked into a room at work, I wasn't going to walk in as this like lowly being and the big shots. I was going to walk into that corporate meeting as well with my head held high. I was going to own the room. And I did that everywhere when I commanded energy and attention just with how I lived in my body when I walked into a room.
Yes. And I'm just feeling the energy, like I want to sit up now and just take up a little bit more room here at my own desk, just listening to you. Very, very important. And so if someone is watching this, Sheena, and she is maybe, you know, where you were some time ago, where she has experienced some kind of trauma in her life, and she is hearing that, you know, feeling like, okay, I've got that little baby voice, like I want to step into my own and step into myself, but I am scared. Frankly, I'm scared of who does she think she is. I'm scared of my own inner voices. I'm just frankly fearful and terrified. What would you tell her?
One of the things I realized, because, you know, we are afraid. We're afraid that maybe our family will reject us, or our friends will, or no one will love us. And I realized even if I stayed where I was and I did what everyone told me and I behaved myself, even still someone would have something to say. It still wouldn't be good enough. I still would be required to do X, Y, and Z. So even when you're scared to actually step out on your own, like it sucks being where you are right now, because that's not working either. And so I let it go. Like, no matter what I do, I tell people this, like, even if I found the cure for cancer, someone would be like, that jerk.
Yeah. Who does she think she is finding the cure for cancer?
Exactly. So even if I did the best thing in the world, someone's going to have something to say, so I'm just going to do what I want to do. So you got to own it and, like, build that confidence to feel secure in your own voice. And the other thing, and this is, I think, what gave me part of the confidence, because I felt so broken and so worn down, I realized, like, no matter what had happened to my body or what horrible breakup I had gone through or what I had lost, that my soul, my spirit, that no one can penetrate. No one can damage that. No one can take away from my spirit and my soul. That is not broken. That's pure, sacred, holy, juicy, yummy energy that is just always amazing. And that helped me feel better about myself. Like, okay, I was abused as a child. Okay, one of my best friends passed away. I feel like crap, but my spirit is good. My spirit is well. So how can I push that spirit into the rest of my life? So I'd say focus on spirit.
Beautiful. Beautiful. Well, piggybacking on that, Sheena, someone sent in a question for you. She wants to know, do you believe that you answered this a bit, but this will be our last question. Do you believe self-love can help you conquer fears?
I believe, yes, I believe that it can be a natural thing that happens, right? If a pack of lions were chasing me, I'm scared, and I think that's justified. But I like to go with what Lizzie Rankin says. I love her. She talks about how she's
Love
at
her.
the edge of a cliff, right? Her body is like, oh my goodness, I'm scared. There's like this 200-foot drop. What in the world? So fear, it happens. But she said when she looks down, she wonders, is it some dark, nasty, danky, gooky water down there, or is it crystal clear paradise water down there? So when I have the fears about something, loving myself gives me courage to, you know, walk maybe one step closer to that cliff. But the other thing that helps me is looking down and figuring out, like, what that fear looks like. Is it just a new adventure, or am I just like jumping to my death and it's going to be torturous? And I think that's what stops people sometimes. Like, we see fear and then we get frozen. Like, take a step and look at what that fear is actually saying.
I think that's really good advice. Be curious about your fear. and figure out, you know, is it a fear like an intuition saying avoid this person, or is it just, you know, that fearful voice that you were talking about?
Yes. Be more curious than your fear. No matter what, whether you like yourself today or not, and tomorrow's better or worse, just be more curious than the fear and the hesitancies. Because right now you already feel crappy, like it doesn't get worse than that. So, you know, try something different.
Yes, try something different. So, how can they try something different with you, Sheena? I know that you have a lot of different things that are going on. I know that in your personal life you have high-heeled hottie nights. So, people, I urge you to go to her blog, first of all, and just see all things Sheena. How can people support your work and be a part of what you're doing, connect with you, all of those things?
Yeah. Well, if you're in New York, come play with me. I mean, my friends, we have our high-heeled hottie nights, or, you know, I have craft and cupcake workshops, and you know, I do retreats, you know, or just come have some chai tea with me at Starbucks. So if you're in New York, just come play with me. And if you're not, I am online, like on my website. I love to write articles that have to do with empowerment or my personal journey in life. And I love to be in dialogue with others and hear their stories and share our experiences together. And that's one way you could do it. I also travel. You know, you shoot me an email. Let me know where you're at, what you have in mind. I like to come to people too.
Okay, okay, wonderful. And yes, and Sheena's an incredible speaker, so bring her to your organization. She's represented by Rain, but so should they contact you directly?
Yes, they can contact me directly as well.
And Sheena, is this your mom who put, someone just sent me a message and said, thank you, Abiola, for including my daughter's story in your book. I look forward to meeting you at the Essence Festival. Is that your mom or someone else's mom?
Well, I would hope that it's my mom. What's the name on there?
It says, and sorry, there's like a bit of a sound delay. It says, Viola, do you
Yes.
naturally?
Yes, that's my
Oh,
mom.
wonderful. Yay.
I think
Nice to
she
meet
and my
you.
sister were watching tonight. Well, one of my sisters.
Oh, that's great. And so are you going to be at the Essence Festival as well, Sheena?
I'm not. I'm not actually. And it looks like so much fun. So many people I love are going to be there.
Okay, well, I look forward to meeting your mom. And for Sheena's mom, that at the Essence Festival, I'm hosting two panels for TV One. One is on Friday with the R&B divas. One is a women's empowerment panel on Saturday morning for TV One. Then I have a book signing in that Saturday afternoon, and then I am speaking later in the afternoon at about 4:40. So at one of those things, I look forward to connecting with you. So come up and tell me I'm Sheena's mommy, and I look forward to meeting you.
Yeah.
Yes. And so thank you, Sheena. I actually want to just read something really briefly from the book about beauty as a spiritual practice as we close. And actually, Sheena's mom, I want to actually add one more thing, that, you know, that you are just, you've created a beacon of light, and so you must be a beacon of light. And thank you for being a powerful woman who believed her daughter without question, that you were a stay-at-home mom and had no savings of your own, and, you know, focused on keeping your family safe. And I am moved by that. So just thank you. Thank you. Okay, so the sacred feminine law of beauty as a spiritual practice. The sacred bombshell embraces beauty as a spiritual practice. She knows that at any moment she can make the decision to be beautiful or to enjoy beauty. This is Nishoni. The bombshell need only rise to her true magnificence and step into her greatness. All beautifulness or ugliness she sees shines forth from her. The beauty she admires in others is the reflection of her own divine light. This is sacred self-love.
Yummy.
And so, yummy. So thank you, Sheena. Someone posted one last comment. Deep thought. What if I actually loved myself? Nice. Go on, Sheena. Yeah. So, thank you for for sharing your journey with us, and I'm excited. I can't wait to see what you do next. I will see you soon at a high-heeled hottie night.
Yes, come join us.
It is a date. And thank you so much for watching. You're not going to want to miss, just as juicy as this conversation was and as inspiring and empowering, the next one up tonight is with Kara Stevens, where we are talking about abundance. Kara's in the book as well. And so I'll join you in a few minutes. You can find the link on my Google Plus page. Thank you for watching. If no one has told you today, I love you. Dream bigger and love yourself. Bye.